Hi, everybody. Am I muted? Oh, I'm not muted. Good. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 23 of WIP Wednesday Live. Happy Wednesday. Of course, the first time I do this and I'm not muted to start, I have nothing to say. It's disappointing. Thank you guys for being here. If you haven't already, please hit that like and drop a little message in the chat and say hello. This is my second week back, and last week I worked on a shelf. That shelf. I finished it last night, but I'm pretty unhappy with it. But it's only because I don't have enough shit to fill it, so I need to either get on that or figure something out, but I think I'm going to just leave it for now. Still have 2 more shelves to finish, which I'll probably get to before next Wednesday. So next Wednesday I will do a live stream. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to be doing yet, but yeah, we'll do something. So, but tonight is going to be interesting because I've only done this once before. Let me get my notes lined up here. I've only done this once before where I just kind of shot the shit and chatted with somebody. And tonight we're going to be chatting with somebody who I have been messaging on Instagram for a while now. He is a stand-up comedian from Norfolk, Virginia. And he has a comedy special coming out on September 12th. Most likely. He said he wasn't sure of the exact date yet, but September 12th, called Tell Me More, and it will be available on Apple Music, on Spotify, and YouTube. He collects action figures, and we talk nerdy pretty regularly. Please say hello to my guest for the week, Nick Deez. Hey, man.
What's up, buddy? How are you, man?
I'm good. How are you?
I can't complain, man. Just hanging out. I had that moment earlier where I was like, oh, damn, I got Central Time confused with Pacific Time. And I was like, oh, dude. I was like, oh, man, I'm so glad I double-checked that because I'd have been an hour, like,
You'd have been sitting here waiting, being like, where is he?
Oh, my God, dude.
Where is he?
Yeah,
so for
like, damn.
For anybody who doesn't know you, I put your Instagram up on the screen so you guys can go and check Nick out on his Instagram. He's got lots of posts of just little clips of a lot of his stand-up. It's where I get most of my stand-up from you is on Instagram, although I was lucky enough to see a couple videos you had sent me of the special, which was pretty cool. So I'm pretty excited for that to come out. I think I kept saying I thought it was coming out at the end of August, but it must have moved.
That was the initial goal. And I had to have that like honest conversation with like myself and the guys that are working on it with me. So the goal was to put it out on the 28th, which would have been this past Sunday. So that was my dad's birthday. So the goal was initially put it all together and release it on his birthday. Now it's just a matter of like, I think the editing's all done. I just need to sit down and then shoot something funny as far as like a picture for the cover. Like the album art just needs to be like taken. I just need to take a picture of that.
Have you thought about doing something like digital? Because so like for anybody who is not familiar with Nick, aside from being a super funny guy, you're also a very talented artist as well.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. So that was my initial thought was like, oh, well, I could just draw it. I thought about just drawing what I had in mind, but for some reason, I don't know. I think there was like some thought in my head that it would be, it would just look aesthetically would look cooler to just have it be like an actual, like a real photo.
Yeah, that's fair.
And like a buddy of mine told me that I could borrow his dog for the picture. So I was just like, all right, nice. I'm like, that makes it even better. So I'm like, I get to like shoot something. So the idea is like to use a picture for something like kind of from the album itself. It's to like kind of hint at something on the album, which is, I think it's in like one of the clips that I sent you, the thing about the lady with her dog and stuff like that. So like the goal is to kind of like match that and have that be the cover without really like letting on to it from jump, without like knowing that that's what it's about.
That's great.
So the idea is like me on a pier holding a chihuahua, and my buddy, conveniently, I have like, that's like the cool thing about networking is like I have a friend who like I did his podcast, and he like conveniently was like, dude, you can use our dog. My wife and I don't care. Like she's a chihuahua, and I was like, all right, that's perfect. So
Awesome.
like me and him are gonna meet up one night, and then my buddy who shot everything is just gonna shoot a couple pictures of it like really quick, and then I'll just throw like the text over that picture, and then it'll be ready to go, and then it's jumping on DistroKid and getting everything set up with the release date. But I mean, realistically, it's like it's down to the wire, and that's like the part where it like may push back a little
bit more,
the September 12th, like a little bit, because it's just a matter of like my buddy has gotten a lot of stuff like jumping off for him lately with like his schedule, like all his photography stuff. He's like been shooting a bunch of bands and shooting like music stuff and whatnot. So like I don't want to take away from something that like he's getting like actual income from.
Doing you a solid, right? So
yeah, exactly.
Work around his schedule.
Yeah.
Just gonna say hello to a couple of people. Some of my regulars are here, which is dope. Anonymous Dude 123, what up, man? Said sorry I didn't get back to you, bro. I'll answer any questions you have, whatever you prefer. Hope all is well. Last week I asked him to message me on Instagram because he's a regular in here, and it's just I like to know the regulars. You know what I mean? Like especially like to support because they're always here. And Anonymous Dude, you're always here. Thanks, man. Says shelf's looking good. Thanks. I hate it, but thank you. Ellie says welcome to you as well. Welcome, Nick.
How's it
and
going?
NYC Figure Fanatic says, what up, man? Hey, dude. Thank you for joining. And Marcus Yee says, hey, buddy. Thank you for popping in as you always do. So there's Nick's Instagram handle there. Check that out if you guys haven't already. Give him a follow. He's also on YouTube as well. All of his information can be found in the description below. So please show him some love. So you've seen, my questions and stuff. I sent a lot of that stuff over to you. We actually have quite a bit to talk about because aside from being huge nerds, we both are ex-band guys, which I'm sure will also come up because a lot of our musical tastes are very, very similar. But for anybody who doesn't know you, why don't you just give everybody a quick rundown on who you are, what you do, and we can dive into the collecting and stuff right after that or right from there. So the floor is yours, man.
Cool. So I've just always been like really into like nerdy, like geeky stuff, and that's kind of like how I found, like out of nowhere, I just started following people that were doing figures and mods on figures and stuff like that, and that's kind of how I came across your stuff. But outside of that, I mean, I did, so like as far as the band stuff goes, I did music before I did comedy. When I was like 18, 19, I started singing in like metalcore bands, and I was like just doing that for like a few years, and then there was like breaks in between, and like the last thing I did before I started stand-up, it was actually posted a picture of it on my story earlier, but it was like our promo shot.
I saw that.
Me and my buddies, like, we went into the studio and like recorded an album, and the goal was that what I told myself was like that was the last project I was going to do for music. If that didn't take off and didn't go where I wanted it to go, then it was time to find something else to do. And it was like right after that, a buddy of mine had started posting like clips about him doing stand-up. And, I kind of hit him up and was just like, dude, how did you like do that? Like, how did you get into like doing comedy and shit? Like, I didn't know that was possible at like a local level. And he kind of told me like he just started going to open mics and shit. And that as goofy as it is, like you see a lot of people that like show up and they're like, oh, it's a New Year's resolution, or it's like a dare, or people lose fantasy
to like go
football.
up.
Yeah.
People
like a lot of times it's like these bros that'll lose like a fantasy football, whatever. And they're like, oh, we gotta, like, they get bullied into doing comedy. And I made it as goofy as it is. It was like my New Year's resolution that year was that I was going to do stand-up. And I spent all of December and January of that year writing jokes. Um, and then my buddy had been posting a bunch of clips, and it was Super Bowl Sunday. This coming year, it'll be 5 years.
Oh,
So
wow. Okay.
like
It's
I
been a while,
had
then.
been writing, I'd been writing jokes for like a couple months, and a buddy invited me to a mic that he was doing, and I was just like, all right, man, I gotta go. And I wasn't even really like planning on going up, and kind of just got like talked
Just
into
happened?
it, where like, yeah, I was just there, and the host was super cool, and there wasn't a whole lot of people there. So in my mind, it just seemed very like low stakes.
Fair enough.
You know, worst case scenario, in my mind, I was like, if I don't get any laughs, at least it's in front of like, 10 people.
Minimal
yeah,
people.
yeah, exactly. It seemed way less like nerve wracking.
How
And then
long did
immediately
you-
after that,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, you're good. Immediately after that, like the next night, I just started like I went to another mic, and like the next thing I knew, I was going up like 6 or 7 times in a week, which was kind of cool. It was pretty wild.
That's crazy, dude. How long did you do the band thing before you kind of jumped off?
So I started doing music in 2009.
Okay.
And like I was in this band called Nautilus, and I sang in that band, and we were like a band for like a couple years. And like we got to open for like a bunch of like pretty decent sized like bands that I had actually listened to at the time, which
Cool.
were like, it was cool.
That's
It was
always
a lot of
surreal, eh?
shows. Yeah, well, it's crazy to like even now. So it's like that like real like weird shift of like going from music to comedy is like opening for bands that I have their CDs or their you know what I mean, shirts, music, whatever,
Yeah.
to now going to opening for comics that like
That you
I
watch
follow
and
on
enjoy.
Instagram. And yeah, it's like I've seen these people. Like 2 weeks ago I got to work with like one of the guys from Impractical Jokers, and it's like I've been
Oh,
watching that
nice.
show on TV for years. So it's like the first night I worked with him, one of the other guys was there. So it was like I got to work with 2 of the guys from Impractical Jokers, which
Oh,
was
that's
insane.
sick,
Like
dude.
it was super like just a very like surreal moment. Like I got
Yeah.
asked to do the shows last minute, and I like made a bunch of like shuffling in my schedule happen. My boss at work was super cool about it, and yeah, like I showed up to the club, and yeah, I got to host for Joe from Impractical Jokers, and
That's
then Murr
sick,
showed
man.
up. Yeah, it was nuts. I mean, it was super crazy.
That's cool though, because it's like it seems like you move around pretty quite a bit. Like it doesn't seem like you stay in one spot. Like you seem to like from the shows that you post on your Instagram and stuff. It seems like you're jumping around to different states and stuff. I know it's a little bit different in the US because I know it's a bit more tight. So it's like it's not quite as a distance. Whereas like here to go from province to province, it's like 12 hours. Like it's a jaunt, right? So
Yeah, and so it's like where I'm at, I'm like lucky enough that like in Virginia where I am, I'm like right near a Funny Bone, which is like a big like club.
okay.
So there's one here in Virginia Beach. There's one in Richmond, which is like an hour and a half, an hour and 45 minutes from where I'm at. Then like further up, you go to like DC and Maryland area and stuff like that. And they both have like really strong comedy scenes up there.
Cool.
And it's like I could go from where I am, it's like 8 hours or so to get to New York City. And it's like I have friends there. So it's like I have an ability if I really wanted to. My goal for next year is to really just kind of sit down and get laser focused on like the business side of things, as far as like branding and like pushing out all my like I want to travel more and like get more like out of state, out of town shows and stuff like that, and to really kind of just grow out of being just like a guy that's in like the local market.
That's fair. Yeah. I feel like that's always a hard thing to do. Like I feel like, I mean, I don't know because I've never done stand up, but I mean like I feel like that would be a lot like being in a band where it's like, you have to sell yourself, you have to be able to draw to a certain degree, right? Like draw in a crowd or bring people in, and like I feel like that would be a challenge for sure to be able to sell yourself in that sense, right?
Oh yeah, I mean it's there's a lot of parallels to it too. It's like very similar because like in comedy, there's like where I'm at, there's a lot of like to a certain degree, there's like bringer shows, which basically it's like you have to bring X amount of people to get on the show, which
Oh,
in
okay.
my mind is like very much equivalent to like what people would say for music is like pay to play, where it's like you don't sell this many tickets, you don't get on the show. Too fucking bad. It is what it is. So it's like in a situation like that where it's like you want to be on the show, you're like, whatever it's got to take to sell these 50 tickets to this show, I'm going to do it. Versus like with the shows that I'm doing for comedy, a lot of it's like, I got to bring 20 people. All right, I'm going to bring 20 people, you know? So it's like, there are a lot of parallels that really kind of line up, which makes it seem less of a deviation from one to the other.
Fair enough. Yeah. That would be, I remember the pay to play days. I remember those band days where you had to sell a certain amount of tickets to be able to get to play. Yeah, I don't miss it either. The thing is like being in a band, like I miss playing live and like I miss the camaraderie. But to be honest with you, like I get the camaraderie piece from the toy community. So like that scratches my itch. But it's just like I hated setup. I hated teardown. I fucking hated recording. And like I just love to play live. That was the only thing. Like if I went to a wedding last week and there was a live band that was doing all of these like Motown mashups from like the 60s and 70s where they were doing like 5 or 6 songs in one, you know, and it was like a 10-minute song and they would just jump between songs. And I was like, oh my God, like I would love to play in a band like this. It's just like, it's super nostalgic. It reminds me of like driving in my mom and dad's car, like in the summers with them listening to their oldies music. And like, yeah, it was just like so nostalgic. And I was like,
that's wild though.
Yeah, I would love to be in a cover band. I'm over the originals and stuff. I'm past that. So
start a Blink-182 cover band. That's all you gotta do.
I wanted to so bad.
Just call it Cheshire Cat and then just play. Right? It'd be that's like a perfect Blink-182 cover band name too, because nobody.
I always thought Apple Shampoo because that was one of my favorite Blink songs from back in the day. But yeah.
You could just be a cover band and just call it "What's Our Name Again."
What's cover bands? Man, I love it. Anonymous Dude says interesting parallels between performing music and comedy. And he says performing live is a rush for sure. If anybody in the chat has any questions for Nick, feel free to drop them in and I will put them up on the screen and we can get his take. Nick, what kind of stuff do you collect? Why don't you tell everybody? We kind of had a little chat before we came live. But why don't you let everybody kind of know on the toy side, the collectible side, what's your deal? What do you dig?
Toy side, I don't buy as many of them, but I always like to look at the Star Wars Black Series. There's some that I really feel obligated to buy because I'm like, man, I love Star Wars. Star Wars is like my all-time favorite. It's like I don't have a lot of Star Wars like figures anymore. I have like a big collection of all my old OG Kenner figures from when I was a kid.
That's so cool.
So I have like original trilogy. Then I have all the action figures from when the prequel trilogy came out. So I have a lot of that stuff is like tucked into my like Millennium Falcon and stuff like that. So I have like tons of ships and stuff like that from when I was a kid, and they're all like original releases. Like they've got like the early 90s like, you know,
got like a lot of that Power of the Force stuff, like the fluorescent green cards and the orange cards. Yeah, those are cool.
Yeah,
those
dude, 100%. Cool. I somewhere. This is like the weird part. Is like somewhere hanging around. I still have like the Princess Leia in the bounty outfit. Like, I have that like sealed in box somewhere with that like holographic sticker on it.
That's great. Those old cards.
I got that floating around somewhere. But yeah, so like I love to look at those. I don't buy them as often. Mostly, more than anything, I lean and gravitate towards like the Marvel Legends figures because I started getting those when they were before Hasbro bought them, and it was like the old ones. Yeah, the Toy Biz ones when they were like in the plastic, like they were sealed in that like that hard plastic that was always such a pain in the ass
You had to like
open.
take a freaking like knife to it just so you could get them
Yeah.
open.
So when I started collecting those was when my first job ever, I worked at Toys R Us.
Okay.
And
Oh, cool.
yeah, that was like my first job. And I would get like I had to stock the shelves and shit. So I would get like first dibs on a lot of the ones that were coming out of the like the shipment boxes.
Nice.
So I would get to like cherry pick what was coming out. Uh, the Oblivion armor from like the first Thor movie.
Okay.
When they did a release for it was a run that had Iron Man in it, but the variant was that figure. And I pulled it out of the box. I didn't know what it was at the time. I just pulled it because I thought it was cool and I knew it was the variant. I bought it at like box price, and then some guy came in looking for it and paid me $200 for it.
Damn.
So I was like, all right, man. I was like 16, and I was just like, all right, I just made $200. I was like, whatever, man. Yeah, fuck it. I was like, I'm cool.
Collectors,
with that.
dude, we're crazy.
Dude,
I've been looking.
I had no idea.
I just recently got into the WWE Ultimate figures, like the wrestlers, you know.
Hell yeah,
and
dude.
I'm being pretty selective, but they just did like a crowdfunding thing last summer or something, and it was like it's like an officially properly scaled ring for 6-inch figures, and one of the stretch goals was Kevin Nash was like a Diesel Ultimate figure, and like I have been eyeballing them, and like they're going for like $250 Canadian, and I keep looking at it like if I can get that like 200 shipped, there's like a pretty strong chance I'm gonna buy it. But then I'm like kicking myself because the whole set, like the ring and Diesel and the other stretch goal was Doink the Clown. The whole thing was only like $300. So I'm like kicking myself that I wasn't on this train earlier. But
that's such a good throwback wrestling character too. Doink the Clown. I used to have there was an old Sega WWF game.
I remember it. I know what you're talking about.
It had Undertaker
and
with
Doink,
like
and he could electrocute
purple
people.
Gloves. Yeah, and they all had like special moves. Yeah, it was like Bam Bam Bigelow, Doink.
He had the flaming headbutt, didn't he?
Yes, yes. Dude, yeah, that was like one of the first games I ever had on Sega Genesis.
It's a good game.
OG WWF through and through all day.
I have a hard time calling it WWE. I always have to catch myself because it's WWF to me. So
that's like the best time. Once that change happened, anything after Attitude Era is where some of it, like to me, gets really like wishy-washy.
Yeah,
it's like
that's where I jumped out.
Yeah, well, so like after I graduated, I watched it for like a year. So like 2010 is like where I really kind of like stopped watching anything wrestling. But I used to have like all the SmackDown versus Raw games on PlayStation 2 and shit. Like the creative character on those is so good.
I would spend so much time making characters, and then I wouldn't even play. I would spend all my time creating characters.
Dude, I to like a OCD level would create the characters and then would like pick every single move that they had. I had every single thing like mapped out to a T.
Yeah, I was a bit OCD about that kind of stuff, so I can relate for sure. Anonymous Dude 123 says, Nick, what were your musical influences and your comedy influences?
So for music, so like I was always I don't know. I have like I love like metal music or like metalcore music or whatever, like heavy music, and a lot of bands that I really like are bands that like when I started getting into that type of music, I ended up meeting these guys because I would go to
small
shows
bands too, right?
Well, yeah, it's like even like bigger bands. Like there's a band called the Acacia Strain who I've like listened to for years. Like I met those dudes and like knew them to a degree, was like cool with them by way of like other friends, like older dudes that had seen them for years prior.
Nice.
like it was always bands that I got into that I liked their music and then met them and then was cool with them in person and stuff like that. Like one of my favorite bands is a band called Like Moths to Flames, and my buddy Chris is the singer for that band.
Oh,
And
cool.
like that's like honestly like the last band that I did. I we did so that like music we wrote was like right after I went through like a bunch of stuff. So my dad passing away, like getting divorced and stuff like that. And I actually had my buddy Chris do like guest vocals on one of the songs on that
Okay.
album. So that was like really cool to have like somebody who was like an actual like musical influence of mine, like
Perform with you.
not only be like a friend, but at that point kind of become a peer was
Yeah,
really
for
cool.
sure.
That was a cool moment. Um,
Nice.
so those are like my musical influences. But then I also like I love Billy Joel, Elton John, and shit like that. Like I love like classic rock. Like Queen's like one of my favorite bands.
Yeah, Queen's
Kiss,
great.
I love Kiss. I'm like planning on getting like a Kiss tattoo at some point in the near future. But as far as like comedy goes, Dave Chappelle for sure
Great.
is always going to be like high up on the list.
Yeah, I'm a big Chappelle fan myself.
Tom Segura,
Oh,
Burt Kreischer, Bill Burr, obviously.
yeah, Burr's
I
great.
think as far as like comics that are like really like blowing up right now, Mark Normand, uh, Shane Gillis, Sam Morril, Joe List. There's like a bunch of New York comics that are really, really good that I like genuinely enjoy. My style of comedy, I like to do a lot of crowd work and stuff like that. And like one of my
Yes, you do.
favorite, yeah, I know that's like why I feel so weird because I did and I recorded and shot like a crowd work album before I did like an actual like material album, which like at times makes me feel kind of lame, but it's like it's what I like. It's fun and it's like to
Well,
me
it's
it's something that's
engaging.
like
It's
cool. Well, yeah,
engaging
because
too.
it's organic in that moment, and it's
Yeah,
one of those things where it's like it then becomes like a you had to be there moment. It's like
yeah, totally.
unless you know what I mean. It's like it's a unique experience to whoever's in the room at that moment. And like one of my biggest influences and one of my favorite comedians to watch when it comes to that style would be my buddy Ian Bagg,
Okay.
um, who I actually got to work with uh, earlier this month. And I did, you know, going back to the drawing stuff, I got to work with him and then I did like a tour flyer for him and stuff like that. So
Nice.
yeah, those are like some of my influences when it comes to comedy. Outside of that, like on a more local level, my buddy Chris Allen is like one of my like really big comedy influences. He's like a huge, he's like a dude that's been like a huge help to me, like as far as like my growth goes. My buddy Winston Hodges, like those are two like more local guys that are like doing big things.
Cool.
My buddy Chris opens for Mark on the Road a lot. My buddy Winston is like open for Brian Regan, and he has gotten to open for like a lot of like really good comics. So those
Nice.
are
That's
dudes that
awesome.
I do like not only respect as peers, but genuinely enjoy and appreciate their comedy.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, great choices for influences. I love like yeah, I've always been a huge Chappelle fan, but yeah, like even like more recently, like I think Tom Segura is like to me Tom Segura just reminds me of like one of my friends, and it's like
Yeah.
his comedy reminds me of like the shit that my friends and I would say to each other, and, like and would just fuck with each other. And Burt Kreischer is
Oh
the
yeah.
same. Like they're very similar in style, and yeah, they've always got me fucking laughing my ass off. So
I got to meet Bert like within my
oh,
first year
nice.
of doing
Did he take his
stand up,
shirt off
and
immediately? I'm just kidding.
oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, no. Well, so I got to see him at the Funny Bone here. I got to
Oh,
meet him
nice.
and hung out with him after the show. And like the cool thing with that was like it was me and like a handful of other comics that were at the show. And afterwards, he was talking to us, and he kind of was talking shop, which was really cool to have
That
like
is cool.
a guy at that level like look at all of us, and he legit just looked at all of us and was like, "Are you guys comics?" And we were all very timidly like, yeah, yeah, we're
Yes.
comics. Yeah, exactly. It was like, yeah, sure. And he was like, dude, I'm going to tell you guys, like, honestly, the key to everything in this business is content. Like, just put out everything
as much as you can.
And honestly, like, that moment right then and there stuck with me so hard. That's like truly like the reason why I've been so adamant for the last, like, 4 years to put out material as consistently as I do. And as corny as it sounds, I'm like, that moment changed my life. But it's like,
We have
it was a
those, man.
huge, like, what was a huge, like, moment where it's like having someone at that level who kind of, what you would say, quote unquote, like, has it made. You know what I
Right.
mean, is like an
Well, they're doing
established.
what you want to be doing,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
to have someone give you that, like, here's this giant, like, breadcrumb. You go, all right, cool. Now it's like, yeah, you just got to find the rest of them. It was a huge moment. And then, like, right after that, the GM at the club offered me a guest spot that Sunday, and I showed up.
Nice.
I was the only comic that was at that Burt show. I was the only comic that showed up, and I ended up getting to host that night,
Oh,
which was cool because
nice.
I was in my first year of doing comedy, and got a paycheck from the Funny
A
Bone, which
show.
was like
That's
a
awesome.
huge, like, looking back on it, I'm like, that's something I guarantee I didn't deserve it. It was just right place, right time kind of thing. But I'm like, holy shit, it was a cool moment. So yeah, it's like a fun little thing.
Nice, man. That's dope. I figured we could just to I kind of get to know the nerdier side of Nick. Some kind of rapid fire questions for you, just so we can kind of get to know a couple things. My first question for you was, who is your favorite superhero?
Ooh, favorite superhero? Honestly, I think would have to be a toss up between, I would say, Batman or Blade. Honestly,
Blade. Oh, interesting.
Blade is. I remember watching those movies as a kid, and I think just because it's like that, like, perfect mix of, like, superhero and,
Yeah.
like, horror movie, and, like, watching that as a kid, I was sold immediately. Like, I saw those movies in theater with my dad, so it's like one of those things that, like, it's that level of nostalgia for me. Um, and it's Wesley Snipes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he
This guy's a
perfectly
bad
embodied the
motherfucker.
character. Uh, but, like, I even now, I'm like, that's like one of my absolute favorite characters. Um, yeah, between Blade and Batman, honestly, I think if I had to pick outside of that, like, a really good runner up is Wolverine, because I always
Yeah.
like the Wolverine character. He
Me
always
too.
gets such good development, and, like, that's a character to me that's, like, treated really well.
Yep.
And
I
then, like,
agree.
if I had to throw in just like because I know that everyone would agree, pick Spider-Man,
Yeah.
obviously, for
Spidey's
sure,
great
because
too.
it's like it's impossible to not like Spider-Man, no matter what. It's like at some point in your life you've, like, related to Spider-Man to some degree, no
I
matter what.
I totally agree. It's funny because I tend to get grilled a lot for my favorite characters, because it's just like they're obvious choices, but I mean, like, they're obvious choices for a reason, right? Like I love Wolverine. Wolverine by far is my favorite. He's done so many cool things both in comics and other forms of media. Um, and yeah, I love him. I love his care. I don't really like modern Wolverine as much. Like, I didn't really like post like Schism, where like him and Scott like kind of like changed views, where it was like Scott before was the one who was like Mr. Goody Two Shoes, and then
Right.
they kind of switched places after like the Schism line, the storyline. I think it was like 2010 or somewhere around there maybe, but like old school Wolverine, like Chris Claremont, like 70s 80s Wolverine, like I fucking love that shit, man. I'll eat it up.
Dude.
And then same with like Spidey too. It's exactly what you said, is like it is literally like the most relatable character you could possibly imagine. Like, it's a kid who has powers and knows he should do good, but wants to go and have fun with his friends, and he's conflicted about whether he should do superhero shit or his homework. And it's just like, I love shit like that. It's just anything that can be related to like that. I dig.
I think even now, like, my big thing with, like, why I enjoy Spider-Man so much is it's because it's like doing this whole, like, through this whole like comedy journey of like trying to be like a comedian, it's like for me it's trying to find that like that balance, that line between like just telling dick jokes versus like having something to say. You know what I mean? So it like very much is my own like weird with great power comes great responsibility journey
That's
of like
awesome.
I want to get to a point where it's like I keep telling like I tell my girlfriend and like I tell people that I'm like close to, it's like my goal is to be just good enough at this that I change somebody's life. You know what I mean? Like
That's
I
cool,
want to
man.
be that guy that like 10 years down the road somebody's like, "Oh man, have you seen this Nick Deez bit about whatever?" You know what I mean? And it like
Well,
it's
maybe
one of those
someone will
things
do
where
for you what you had Bert
that's what I'm
do for
saying.
you, right? Or you do for them what he did for you. So that's pretty cool. Anonymous Dude 123 says, I heard someone say recently when Blade came out, Marvel was struggling financially,
Yes.
and the movie kind of saved their movie department. Interesting. I didn't know that.
They were
There's been lots of
facing so
times where bankruptcy, right?
yeah, they were facing
Yeah,
bankruptcy. Blade is the movie that saved Marvel. At
that's
that point,
cool.
that was like in the midst and in the height of them selling off all the properties. Because like right
I
when
remember
Blade
that.
came out, Blade was such a huge financial success that Blade saved Marvel from legit bankruptcy.
That's
Uh,
cool, man.
if it
That's so
wasn't for
cool.
that, then they like genuinely there could have if you think about it, so many characters that were introduced in stories after all that shit happened, there would have been people that never like you we never would have gotten Miles Morales.
Yeah,
Like there would have
totally.
been so many new wave characters that came after the early 2000s that never would have happened.
I know it's crazy to think, right? It's crazy to think that that's where they were, and now when you look at where they're at now, it's like it's
Dude,
pretty wild.
insane.
It is. It's very insane. It's such a crazy time to be a nerd, right?
Oh yeah.
Sticking with the favorites, favorite villains. Are you more of a hero guy or
Joker.
a villain guy?
I like both, man. I
Yeah.
gotta say, like, I like that good mix, man. Everybody's got their, you want to be Luke Skywalker, but sometimes you just got to be Darth Vader. You know what I mean?
Fuck yeah.
Like, there's that like perfect balance, man. Like, no one's ever like, no one's ever like truly good, and I don't think anyone's ever like truly evil when it comes down to it, really, unless you're like, just a piece of shit. But I think when it comes down to like true, like genuine, like villains, honestly, I'd say my top villains would be Joker, obviously, for sure, hands down, because like, you can't just talk about villains without talking about Joker. I'd say for me, it's Joker, definitely up there. I think Magneto really like he kind of walks that line between being a bad guy, depending on who's
Yep.
writing him,
Yep.
versus
Kind of
being like an
anti-hero.
anti-hero.
Yep.
Same with Venom. It's like
Yep.
Venom's one of those characters where it's like he's had shit where he's eating people's faces, but then he's got stuff where he's like direct team up with Spider-Man, like
Yeah, and saving
to
people and
yeah, so it's like I like those characters because
me
they
too.
do have like they have depth and there's that
They
weird
walk the
dichotomy of
line.
yeah.
They walk the line of good and bad, right?
Yeah,
I
it's almost
definitely
like
gravitate towards those characters as well.
well yeah,
So
it's like Batman versus Azrael. So it's like that weird like same thing with Red Hood. Red Hood is like to me like that's such a cool character that like goes on being introduced as like a villain, but then has this like cool redemption arc where then it goes, yeah, but you saved him, but you didn't all the way save him, and now he just operates within this gray area constantly. So it's like those are some of my favorites. Doctor Doom is super high up there,
yes.
just because he's like one of the coolest like Marvel characters. Um, I mean, there's some that I think I feel like at times I overlook some of them. Green Goblin's like really high up there for
Yeah, Green
sure.
Goblin's a great
Uh,
villain. Great
Carnage,
character.
Carnage for sure.
Yeah, I like
Um,
Carnage too.
yeah, I think those are some of like my top tier like favorite. Bane for sure. Bane
Yeah.
is like going back to Batman. That's like one of my favorite like Batman villains for sure.
I don't DC. I mean, I don't say much. I don't DC at all. So like I don't know a whole lot about a lot of those DC characters, but I would say in terms of like Marvel stuff, we fall pretty close in line. Like Wolverine, Spider-Man, Magneto, Venom.
I'm way
those are
more invested in
jam.
Marvel than I've ever been in DC. I think DC
Yeah.
only just holds that candle for me because of
Batman.
Yeah,
Yeah.
honestly.
To be honest, the only DC stuff that I enjoy, and again, I don't read DC. I've never read DC. I've never really been attracted to DC, but the stuff that does attract me is like I find like Batman's very similar to Spider-Man in that like
Yeah.
I mean I do love Spider-Man, but one of the big things that attracts me to Spider-Man is his villains. Like I love his rogues, and like Batman is that as well. It's like I think Batman has an awesome rogues gallery. So
there's some like really good ones in there too. Between
man,
Batman
so
and Spider-Man for sure.
Spider-Man
100%.
is like I mean like I love like my Spider-Man shelf. Like I fucking love my Spider-Man shelf. I have so many good villains, and there's so many honestly, there's so many characters that are associated with him that are just great. It's not even the villains. It's I love Black Cat. I think Black Cat's a great character.
Man,
I love Miles Morales.
Yeah. I've always had a soft spot, not because it's like this like femme fatale, whatever, but like
it probably
Black
started
Cat
there for
like,
me, but
as a kid, I'm like, oh man, that's way to go, Spider-Man. Spider-Man is like, you look at Spider-Man in the cartoon show and you're like, oh, that's just proof that nerds can pull bitches. You're like, all right, dude, way to go, man. You're like, good job, Spidey. It's like, we're all losers. And I'm like, wow, look at Black Cat. She's just walking around in go-go boots with fur on them. And Spider-Man's just like, oh, he has no idea that she's like just throwing herself at him. It's like, all right, man. Same with like Batman and Catwoman. You're like, dude, way to go, guys. All right, broken women like broken dudes. It's like, all right, cool. I'm into it. I'm hype with this. But I've always liked that character.
Who? Black Cat?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I like Black Cat a lot. She's a great character. She's I like her as a hero. I like her as a villain. I like her in the middle. She's a great. Yeah, I guess it depends who's writing her too, but she is pretty awesome.
One of my favorites was there's like a small run that Kevin Smith did of Spider-Man, and it had Black Cat in it. I bought that. It's like a 6-part like mini series, and I had to buy that.
A hero or a villain in it?
I think she's a hero in it. Nice, they like team up, and then it's got like a couple of the books have her on the covers.
Nice. My love for Black Cat actually started in Maximum Carnage. That's that storyline was that was like a big entry point for a lot of comic book characters that I got into, mostly from the game, but then also the
that game is so good.
I know, so hard though, so hard.
Yeah.
Anonymous dude says it's interesting. Bill Mayer's comedy is like a TED talk with jokes. He says what he believes in, trying to affect the world for the better.
I believe that. I've never been. It's weird. I always feel like I'm such an idiot that I'm like when any comedian starts doing stuff that's like super smart, I'm like, oh man, I don't feel like
I feel that way too.
It's like with Norm Macdonald. I'm like, I like Norm. I know that people love Norm Macdonald, but I'll listen to like very wordy comics.
Yep.
And then I just go, all right, I feel stupid. And then I'm like, all right, well, can we just go back to talking about dicks? I understand that. That's funny to me.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I don't really. I mean, I guess there is certain styles of comedy that I gravitate to, but ultimately, if it makes me laugh, it's fair game. So, that being said, it doesn't all it. Like I can like a comedian, but I can dislike a stand-up. Like there's quite a like I love Jim Gaffigan, but there's a lot of his stand-up specials that like I'm not really that into. Same with Bill Burr. Like there's a lot of stand-ups that Bill Burr does that like I think are just like seriously gold. But then there's a couple that I'm just like,
Did you watch the new one?
I did. I liked it. I actually just saw Bill Burr live in June. It was great. It was so fucking funny.
I think we talked about that.
I think we did. Yes.
Damn.
Anonymous Dude 123 says, I love Punisher, but he can get too dark. I got to read some Captain America to even it out. Yeah, Punisher can be pretty gruesome, that's for sure. So, and then he says, I feel like you two could have a dope conversation about the complicated friendship between Professor X and Magneto one day. Love their dynamic.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Such a
I
good
also love
dynamic
it.
too.
I know, right? I know. Magneto's such a rich character. He has so much history too, right? They've done so much with him, and
They really have.
he's awesome. I love. And then like I don't know if did you ever read any of the Marvel Now Uncanny X-Men where they started kind of losing their powers? It was from like 2014, I want to say.
I think I
Kinda,
read some of it.
yeah, it's really good. Like I kind of got over it when they switched writers. Brian Bendis was writing it, and then about
Nice.
20 or 30 issues in, they switched it up, and I kind of lost track. But it
Brian
was kind
Michael
of like
Bendis is
Cyclops was
he's a
like
really good writer.
he's a great writer. He kind of made Cyclops he kind of gave him like a heel turn. He kind of like started like killing for mutant kind, and like it was it was pretty dark. It was awesome. It was really cool. He had a goofy costume, but it was good though.
Cyclops always gets such like the dork treatment. Always.
Well, he's just like he's such a Leonardo.
I know. Ugh.
He's such a Leonardo. It's funny because his '90s costume, from the animated series, like is literally one of my favorite comic book costumes in history. Like I love it, but I'm not a Cyclops fan. Like I like him when he does that heel turn in those more modern books. I definitely liked him when he kind of grew a spine and was like ready to fuck shit up. But yeah, I've never been a huge Cyclops fan really. Like
he's just always super Boy Scout to me. It's like
totally. He's just super vanilla, right? He's just like such a vanilla white boy.
Cyclops, out of anyone on like the original lineup of the X-Men, you're like Cyclops definitely does missionary. That's like 100%. You're like out of all of them, you're like Cyclops does missionary and only missionary without breaking eye contact. Anything other than that, you're like it's a sin in the eyes of God. You're like this is annoying. I don't like it. It bothers me.
He keeps his jumpsuit on. He just like pulls his junk out of the side of his little pants.
That's my biggest complaint with you. Like literally right now, I'm thinking of the scene in Mallrats where Brody's talking to Stan Lee about how the
superhero jump.
In my mind, this is it. I'm like Cyclops fully clothed and pulls it out through the hole in his zipper, and then that's it. He keeps the goggles on and everything. And that's the Cyclops where he's got the hood, where it's like
he's got the bald cap.
He's got the bald cap on.
He just looks like he's in a human-sized condom.
He's just in an X-Men version gimp suit. That's literally all it is. That's it.
That's fucking hilarious. So you said you're a Star Wars fan, and what would you say your favorite era of Star Wars is? Like, are you an original trilogy guy? Are you a prequel guy? Are you a sequel guy? Are you extended universe? Like,
man,
where was your entry point? Like, where did you jump into Star Wars?
My entry point was I was a kid, and so I got in on the original trilogy. I think the main reason why I like Star Wars as much as I do is because Star Wars to me is like one of the first things that my parents both introduced me to together.
Oh,
and
cool.
It was like a thing that like as a family, the three of us really were able to like sit down and enjoy. I remember when I was a kid, like they showed me Star Wars one year. And I remember that Christmas, I got tons of, and it's like a lot of those are figures that I still have.
Nice.
But I got
That's
like
sweet.
a bunch of Star Wars action figures for Christmas that year. And I remember like sitting on the floor in the living room watching A New Hope. And like I had the Luke Skywalker in the X-Wing, jumpsuit. I had the X-Wing, and I remember sitting there as he's like flying the X-Wing on screen. I'm moving the X-Wing in my hand, like playing with the toy, like watching it on screen. And like I look back on that moment like so many times in life, and I'm like, that is like, to me, that is like one moment that I can snapshot in time no matter what is going on, good or bad day. And I'm like, that is like a moment for me of like just pure joy. Like that is a moment where like I look back on that moment in my life, and it's Star Wars directly is like the umbrella over that moment where I go, this is correlated one to the other. And that's like a moment in my life where like I didn't understand disappointment, like I didn't understand the world. I just knew that like I had this thing and it was like cool to me, and my parents gave
And
it
your
to me.
parents were, yeah, that's cool
So
too.
it's like ever since then, it's like it's been such a huge thing. Like when when they did the re-release of the original trilogy in the 90s, uh, I remember seeing those movies in theaters and
Nice.
like
That's where I
having that
first got
like,
into it.
oh man, I remember my mom worked at the mall, and the mall had a movie theater in it. And I remember I would go up to the mall, like after my parents split up, I would go to the mall, and there'd be days where like I would go up there and I would watch the movies in the theater, and then I would get done, and then my dad would pick me up, and then I would go spend time with my dad and shit. And like I remember that just being like a thing where I was like at the mall with my mom, either waiting on my dad or waiting on a babysitter or whatever, and I would just watch the movies during the day and watch, you know, granted they were the fucking George Lucas re-releases with all the extra bullshit, but you know,
You know, that's
whatever,
fine.
it
It
is
is
what it
what it
is.
is.
But
It is what it is.
you know,
That's just George.
but like that stuff to me is like it's all stuff that I like very much hold like super super close to, like, you know, this like weird feeling of like safety. So it's like Star
Yeah,
Wars for
fair
me has
enough.
always been like a huge thing that like I gravitate to because it's something that I enjoy. I think original trilogy for sure is top. Um, I'm probably one of a few people that I know that is okay with the prequel trilogy, based solely on the fact that that is a part of the story that I felt was necessary to tell.
Totally. I
You
agree with
know,
you.
first time I watched Revenge of the Sith, oh man, it like I remember like even looking back on it now, I just rewatched it like a month or two ago, and like that whole scene with him and Obi-Wan like
At the
fighting
end?
that
Yeah.
at the end of the movie, dude, I remember watching that shit like on the verge of tears, just being like, damn, so that's how that happened. Like
Yeah.
just you finally get that like that
They fill
backstory
in
of
the
like this
gaps.
is what
Yeah.
yeah, it's like this is what happened. Granted we didn't need that with like, you know, Solo, a Star Wars story, but like, you know what I mean, that's like an
Yep.
instance where like filling in those gaps, it was done. Dude, say what you want about Hayden Christensen, but that like it was done so well,
I
and
thought
it
it was
led
too.
things in a direction where it like it really needed to go to bridge that gap. Now you go to the sequel trilogy, there's moments in there that like I really enjoyed. There's
Yep.
moments in there that I really was bothered with because of how much of the expanded universe stuff I've been able to digest over the years. So there's
That
like
you
certain
now
things
had
where
to
like
like ignore, right? Kind of throw
yeah,
out the
so it's
window.
yeah, it's like, you know, you had to like force yourself to like forget a lot of it. Where it's like I went into it thinking Ray and Ren, I'm like, oh, the names are similar.
Yep.
I'm
You're thinking
thinking
like it's going to be
it's
like Jason and Jaina and
exactly.
yeah. Yeah,
And I'm
totally.
thinking that's like what they're doing, and it's gonna be like my immediate thought is the reason Han like was cool with her being on the ship is because that was gonna be the turn, is that she was
Right.
gonna be a solo, and I'm
Yep.
thinking like that's where everything's going, and then to like have the end of it just really kind of be like a throwaway. It was
Yeah, it was. It
I
really
don't know,
was.
man. That's like the first time in Star Wars for me that I was like really kind of like let
Disappointed?
down
Yeah.
because I so like I went. It was a big moment for me because when Force Awakens came out, I took my stepdad to go see that movie in theaters. So, like me and my stepdad went and saw that movie. It was after my dad had passed away, and like I took my stepdad to go watch that movie, and like watching that movie on screen, watching the scenes that like, and this was the part that was weird to me is like watching people like get upset about the fact that it was similar to A New Hope.
Yeah.
And people were like, "It's just A New Hope with a bigger Death Star. It's the same movie. Why are we like? What a waste of 2 hours." But for me, it was like I looked at it as like that was a reintroduction.
Yeah,
It
I
was
agree.
like something that like it could have been me, my stepdad, and my kid all watching that movie together. Because for me, like when I saw it, I immediately went back to being that little kid in the living room, fucking watching the original
with your parents.
Yeah, so it was like, dude, it was like one of those moments for me that like really kind of brought me out of the fact that my dad had just died. I'd just gotten divorced and shit like that. So it was like it came out at like a perfect time in life to like really like digest it, and it like meant something to me. And then to be there with my, my dad and shit was like it was a cool moment. And
Yeah,
then for
sure.
like fans to shit on it so hard and just be like, dude, it was
I
a
know.
shot by shot like remake. There was stuff in there that I really was hoping that they were gonna do the Finn's Mace Windu's kid, and there was so much shit in there that I'm like, man, just go with it, dude. There was a lot of cool shit, and then the changing of hands to Rian Johnson for Last Jedi
Yeah.
was like a big thing that like kind of bothered me because the Knights of Ren come back in Rise of Skywalker, and they're just there
for like a second. They're not even anything. They're nothing. They're just
there to get run through.
Cannon fodder. They're whatever. Anonymous dude says that's powerful, bro. These fandoms are magic for real.
Yeah. Yeah.
True, man. So true. It's funny because like for me, like I got into Star Wars not as young as most people did. Like I got into it when they got re-released into the theaters, the special editions. That's really was my first. Like I knew what Star Wars was, but that was really what got me. To be honest, the thing that actually got me into Star Wars was the Empire Strikes Back video game for Super Nintendo. But once I got into that and played it and was like in love with it, I started to want to know the actual story. So that was when the special editions were coming out. So I got to see them in the theaters, which was dope. And then like I was super, super excited for the prequels. And it's funny because it like for me, I've never been one to let fandom stop me from enjoying something. Like if everyone's shitting on something, it doesn't really mean anything to me. Like I always let myself make the decision on if I'm gonna like it or not. And like I consider myself very easy to please when it comes to nerd shit, especially because like to me, I love history in a shared universe, and like as long as it's adding to the timeline, it doesn't all need to be like 10 out of 10. But
right.
Oh, snap. Figure Fanatic, NYC Figure Fanatic says, I'm running like 30 minutes late, but if you want to wait, I'll sell you my Ultimate Diesel. We'll talk, dude, because I'm definitely interested. Yeah. But yeah, so like, and then so it was weird because like when the prequels came out, episode 1 came out, like there was a lot of pieces of nostalgia in it for me that like, and again, the nostalgia at that point wasn't even that old for me. It was only a few years old, right? But there was things that like I loved, there was things that I hated, and I was like, it's kind of like a slow start. And then I really, really liked episode 2, even though most people hated it. And then I really liked. Oh, me too. I did too. I know. Again, I hear the criticisms, and I'm not dismissing them. Like, I do think there's bad acting. I do think the script is pretty piss poor in a lot of spots. The CGI is pretty fucking not awesome in a lot of it either. But like overall, you know, I really liked episode 2 and 3.
That Count Dooku fucking Yoda lightsaber
at the end
fight in that is so good.
It's so good. Count Dooku as a whole is just like a great character. I loved Count Dooku.
Such a cool character. Such a cool character. Really.
Yeah. And then like once we got
his
to
lightsaber too, it's like
when you go into like the curve.
Yeah. You know? When you go into like the details of all the stuff like that's surface level shit that you don't notice in those movies, that's like there's so many different things that are like more than just it's aesthetically different. Like his whole lightsabers, like if you read up all the story behind it, it's like he did that so that his lightsabers were a completely different fighting style than the rest of the lightsabers like that everybody else used, because he had a completely different training style. His was supposed to be more like instead of instead of it being more defensive, it was more offensive. So it was like more like attack based and everything, which is really cool. It's like there's a lot of
cool,
like cool shit that they like talk about and all that stuff without it being like on screen in the movie. So there's a lot of like material for that.
That's the best thing about Star Wars, in my opinion, is nobody has a full fucking history.
Oh
and
my
like,
God.
I love it. Like, again, it adds to the lore and it makes it that much better. But then when we got to the sequel trilogy, it was like the opposite of the prequels. It's like I saw episode 7 and I was like, yeah, it is A New Hope again. Like, it is, I get it, but it works. And like, to me, it made me super excited for what was to come. And then once Rian Johnson got in and did episode 8, I really felt like it was someone writing the characters and directing the characters who doesn't know the characters. Like, I felt like a lot of the decisions they made were like not decisions that those characters would have made. So like, I kind of didn't love episode 8. And then episode 9 was basically just undoing episode 8. And I'm like, you should probably be trying to wrap the story up instead of backpedaling. But yeah, episode 9 is just a fucking mess. But yeah,
that's the part that sucks, is because when it changed hands from 7 to 8, what I remember seeing and reading shit about it that like J.J. Abrams had passed off a treatment of like, this is how 8 is supposed to go, because he had written,
and then
8
he
and
just
9.
was like, whatever, I'm doing my own thing.
Yeah, it's like he just did Looper in space. So it's like, all right, man, fuck it. Okay.
Yeah, do
It's
my
like,
own thing. All right.
It just sucked because, again, it's like going back to the Knights of Ren. The whole point behind the Knights of Ren is the way they're introduced in 7 is those are the people that defected the Jedi Academy with,
Kylo.
with Ren. Yeah, so those are like Kylo's, his comrades. Like, those are the other students. And they like, then you fast forward to 9 and they're using fucking clubs and sticks and shit. It's like, what? Not one of them has a lightsaber. Not one of them even has like you look at the Praetorian Guards in The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
And
which was a great scene.
Say
that was a great
that's
scene.
such a phenomenal scene.
I agree.
It's such a I really like that scene. That scene is done super well. Like them fighting back to back. Like the dynamic of that scene is so cool that it makes up for other stuff that's in that movie that's just kind of shitty. Cool.
Yeah, I agree.
The whole Snoke character just being a throwaway for like them shoehorning.
Super disappointing.
The fact that that Palpatine had clones throughout the entire, you know what I mean? Like, that is expanded universe lore. That's stuff that, like, if you know that part of the expanded universe, it's like you kind of see it coming. But it's like, what the fuck? There was no fucking point. And it also didn't make any sense, because it's like, how is Snoke like 20 feet tall? And then you're like, that's from a just shitty clone of Palpatine. You're like, okay, whatever.
They stretched him out.
Yeah. You're like, okay, man. They just gumbied him.
Gumbied him. But yeah, I don't know. Like, to me, so like, I would say at this point, like, my favorite Star Wars content is Empire. Like, I love Empire Strikes Back. I love that it ends on such a bummer. But like, I don't know if you ever got into any of the animated stuff. I didn't get super into Clone Wars, but I am beyond obsessed with Rebels. Like, I fucking love Rebels. I love it.
That last season of Clone Wars is really good.
Yeah. Season 7 is great. I watched season 7. So,
but see, my thing is, so going back to the prequel stuff, when you watch the prequel stuff and then go into Clone Wars, there's so much stuff in Clone Wars that, granted, I didn't really like the animation style all that much.
Yeah, or the prequel.
The animation style to me seemed very like, it seemed very,
you have to get used to it.
Not amateur, but it was very much like they're trying to do stuff in a darker tone, but it still looks like a little kid show.
A kid
like,
show,
yeah. Like, I liked the way the Gendy Tartakovsky one, like the short one,
that
they did on Cartoon Network before, like the early 2000s one. I liked
it. It's very stylized. It's very stylized.
It looks like Samurai Jack. Like, that one to me was like super cool. The animation is like hard edges and everything's like rigid and cool looking.
Yeah.
Versus everyone looking like they have a fucking bobbleheads, you know. But like, I do like, there's a lot of stuff in the Clone Wars story that's like really good, that they do expand on a lot, which is cool. and it does lend a lot more credence to the prequel movies
I agree.
by way of that. But I really, I think with a lot of the stuff that they've got going on, man, I think they're really taking a better comb to what they should be doing right now. Just between like The Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, Obi-Wan.
Obi-Wan
honestly,
was a great one for that, like to redeem some of the prequel stuff, especially because there's a lot of people who never did Clone Wars, right? So it's like there's a lot of people who prequel Star Wars is still the movies and that's it, right? And like really, it's like you said, like, you know, they really developed a lot of the characters and like put a lot more backstory to them in the animated stuff. So, but it is a commitment. That's the thing, is it's like 7 seasons, and you know, most of them are like 25 episode seasons. Like, there's a lot of filler to get the good shit, right? Like,
it's like watching Dragon Ball Z but with lightsabers. It's like tune in next time. You're like, dude, y'all been saying that for like 6 weeks now. You're like, Jesus.
Anonymous dude says, Star Wars may be the best fandom of them all. From the movies to cosplay to the movie replicas, it's all the extra layer of love and care.
That's true. I believe that 100%.
And Marcus Yee says, Captain Fordo, fuck the world.
I love the Star Wars stuff. I think it's so crazy to me because you look at, like, outside of the prequel movies, you look at the sequel stuff, and then basically the Disney umbrella Star Wars shit. They have, it's like such a weird scale right now, right? Because you've got the sequel trilogy that people are like shitting on it. Like Rian Johnson's was so poorly received that people were like, you guys should remake a second one that's not his and just strike his from the trilogy. Like there was people being like, just make that not canon,
right?
Which is insane. Like that.
Yeah, that's so insane to me too. That's insane to me too.
Then you have Solo, which to me was like had potential to be really cool. It's got a good cast in it.
Yes.
But to me, honestly, the only like really like redeeming part of fucking Solo is the very final scene in Solo with Darth Maul.
It's great.
Other than that, I'm like, all right, whatever. I don't remember much of that movie, but I tell you what, out of all the movies that they have done, I think Rogue One stands amazing as one of, I will put that up there.
Me too.
100% top. I will say top 1 or 2. In all honesty, like that, like I think it's A New Hope, Rogue One, and Empire are like the top 3 out of all of them.
I would say probably Empire. For me, it's like Empire, Rebels. Like I couldn't pick just one, obviously, but like the Rebels series, like I love Rebels. Rebels is Empire level to me. And then New Hope, and then Rogue One. I love Rogue One. I think it's an amazing. I love that it ends in a fucking bummer. I love that it's like our first chance of seeing Darth Vader as like a bad motherfucker. Like I remember watching that scene, and like my hair on my arms was just like,
like, and it leads directly up to the opening scene.
It's perfect.
It's
fucking perfect.
Beautiful. It's like perfect. It is 0.5 A New Hope. You know what I mean? Like it's not even really that it's like a prequel like movie. It's just like it just seems like the perfect, like it's like reading a prologue to A New Hope. You know what I mean? It just felt like that one chapter right before the story starts, and you're like, God damn it, dude! It's so well done. The characters are treated so well in that. And it very much delivers on giving you a movie that like you know the outcome like within the first.
But it doesn't matter
though. Movie.
But it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It's still good. It's still great.
Like you know how the story ends, but it's like to really like the second. I'll be honest with you, the second where they give the call sign where they're like getting the name of the ship,
Rogue One.
The second they say Rogue One. Immediately, I was like, God damn it, dude! I had fucking goosebumps. I had goosebumps because it's like, oh my god, like that light bulb moment. You're like, oh, so
Yep.
that's where the rogue, that call sign comes from. You're like, holy shit, like that. It was so cool.
To me, the thing from that movie that stood out the most was it answered it. It's like me. So I do a podcast on Saturday nights with my buddy Ryan, Moose Milk Media. We just chat about pop culture, and like I say it a lot on there is like that. The things I love about Star Wars and the MCU right now is like I love when they go. I like when they add to the lore to make an existing movie better. And like Rogue One was one of those movies that did that between the Vader scene, between explaining why they would have such a flaw in the Death Star system. I always wondered when watching New Hope, like when you're building this, why would you ever leave it like leave a spot for it to be destroyed? Like I could never comprehend. And then getting the story on it was like it was great. So I'll say hi to Matchu Toy. What up, dude? He is such a nice guy. So the Toy Migos is one of the podcasts we all kind of watch pretty regularly. And they did this big photo competition for the summer, and this guy fucking donated like a $400 fucking set of Pink Skull Mezco Pink Skull figures for a prize. So Matthew, you're the man, buddy.
Holy shit.
Good dude right there. Marcus E says The Mandalorian is one Star Wars project that got me back into the franchise. I love Mandalorian. I definitely like the first season better, but I do like that we're getting some tie-in. Like apparently we're supposed to get like most of the Rebels crew in Mando season 3, which is season 3, and Ahsoka as well, which is which will be really
so they're doing such a good job of like world building between like all because you've got Andor's coming, Ahsoka's coming.
Do you think we're gonna see any familiar faces in Andor? Because I think we're gonna see, especially because it seems like they're building up that like this is like the Rebels. Like this is the build up to the Rebel Alliance, right? So I'm wondering who we see.
I'm wondering if they're gonna introduce live, because they already had where they showed like on stage they showed the chopper like rope like for the droid.
Yes, in Rogue One they showed Chopper. And isn't Hera's name Captain Syndulla? I think she's mentioned, I think, as well.
Yeah, well, but one of the Comic Cons, they had like Chopper on stage recently.
Oh, nice.
And they're saying that like that the crew is going to show up somewhere.
Well, I think they've been cast. So I know Hera's been cast. I know Sabine's been cast, and I know Ezra's, I think, rumored. I don't think he's been confirmed yet, but
dude, I'm just saying, the more like Force sensitive characters that we can get introduced on screen, I'm all for it.
Me too, man. I'm all in. I am all in. Anonymous dude, thanks, man. Says good show here, talking comedy, music, X-Men, Star Wars.
Hell yeah.
Marcus E says, I liked how Rogue One was more of a war movie. It was different from the rest of the franchise. Reminded me of those Vietnam War films.
Well, because that's like the first like real Star Wars like property outside of the Ewoks movie that's not based on the Force.
Jedis,
really. Like, it's like it shows that like Star Wars has more to offer than just lightsabers.
Jedi
and that
Sith.
To me is
like, I agree.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's such a cool, like, it is like a really good, like, you take like a wartime propaganda movie and just set it in a Star Wars universe, and you're like, all right, that's what you get. It's like, okay, it's such a cool story, and it shows like it does a really good job of capturing that like emotion of like, you know, what's really at stake in the universe. And they do it so well in that movie. It's really cool. Yeah, it really is. I think, say what you will about Disney, I know I get it, and again, I hear the complaints. I understand where a lot of people are coming from, but I also understand that like when you're putting out the content level that you are, like, again, not everything is going to be the best. You know what I mean? Some stuff you're going to have to take the good with the bad, and you know, like I always try to look at it in a positive light and just say, what's the good stuff that came out of this? Like, yeah, this isn't all. So like Solo is a great example. Like, to me, Solo
is, in my opinion, the most Star Wars feeling movie that Disney has done. In my opinion, I had no interest in seeing a Han Solo prequel. It was like the prequel that I never wanted, but was totally fine with having in the end because I actually quite enjoyed it. Liked the cast. I really liked Han and all of his different characters. I love Donald Glover, so him as Lando was great for me. There's definitely a ton of cringeworthy stuff in it, like when he got his name Solo because he was alone. Like I was like, that is literally the dumbest fucking shit I've ever heard in my life.
There's like some stuff in there that I'm like, God damn it, dude. Like,
yeah, there's some terrible stuff. But I mean, in fairness, like it was plagued with delays and issues and rewrites, and like, you know, they pretty much shot half the movie and then started over again. Like,
damn.
Yeah, man, it was crazy because they kicked the Lord and Miller off of it and replaced them with Ron Howard like 8 months into production or something crazy like that. Like they literally started over. I think they were on set for like a full year, pretty sure.
That's crazy. So, I didn't know that it had that much going on with it.
There's tons of issues. Like they didn't even show the first trailer for it until like 6 weeks before it came out, something like that. Like it was crazy.
Damn.
Yeah. Anonymous Dude says, I like when movies add to their lore of the story to make previous movies he was quoting me. Good take, Customs. Yeah. I to me, and it's like, so I won't get into She-Hulk because I know it's still technically pretty spoilery because it's fresh, but like that's one of the things I'm really enjoying about She-Hulk is like I love when you can go back to something that's already passed and give me more information to make it make more sense. And I'm just like, okay, that's cool. I like that, right? I love when it was a big part of also why I wasn't a huge fan of Moon Knight. Like, did you watch Moon Knight?
I did. I liked it.
I liked it. I'm not saying I didn't like it.
I felt like there was a lot more to be desired. Like, I feel like Disney's kind of been like short ending a lot of the properties and a lot of like the fans to a degree. Where it comes down to it, I feel like some of the stuff that they've been putting out is 6-episode show. I feel like there's like so much that they're like cutting out by not just doing 8 to 10 episodes. It's like I feel like just do that. Just at least 8. I don't think it should be any less than 8.
We've been talking about it because, like I said, when I do that weekly show with my buddy Ryan, it's one of the things that gets brought up every single week. It's just like, he wants everything to be way more, right? And like I think Disney's biggest issue right now with all of their Disney Plus shows, and I even think their best shows suffer from it, is like their pacing is just, it's brutal, man. Like it's like,
some of it's like really shitty.
You'll go 4 episodes of something and nothing happens, and then in episode 5 it's like it moves the story 12 steps forward, and you're like, dude, you just rushed through an episode and moved the story along so much, but we just spent the last 4 episodes doing fucking nothing at all.
That's how I felt with Miss Marvel. Like Miss Marvel, like all the marketing on it like made it seem like she was going to get the costume like super early, and it was going to be all this like quick pace shit. It's like she didn't get the costume till the very last episode, basically. And you're like, all right, well then what the fuck? Like, why use that in any of the marketing? I'm like, what the fuck is the point of this shit then?
See, it was easier for me because I thought Miss Marvel was going to be targeted at like little kids. So I went in with like zero expectation. I actually ended up really liking it, but it was because I went in thinking that I wasn't going to like it. Like,
I like the show overall as a whole. I think it does a good job of introducing the character, and the twist at the end opens the door for a lot of things that, like I really am excited for seeing coming up in the future on the MCU. But I do think that was the way they presented that nugget at the end of the series was a decent MCU alternative to introducing her as one of the Inhumans.
Yeah,
because we all saw how well the Inhumans panned out in the MCU.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Apparently, the creator of the character said that when they originally introduced Kamala in the comic books, the plan was to make her a mutant initially, but at that time Marvel was suppressing the mutants because they didn't have the film rights, and they were really really pushing Inhumans. So I'm just gonna hit a couple of these comments
that
here.
was supposed to be their take on it, because that was something that they were putting out at the time, that anything
Inhumans were, I think Inhumans technically, I can't remember, I think
it was after the fact, it was separate,
but I think they outdate the X-Men, I'm pretty sure. I feel like Black Bolt and Medusa and Gorgon were all Jack Kirby, like early 70s, I want to say. Maybe I'm wrong, but
they might have been.
Yeah. Marcus Yee says, I like how some parts of the Legends expanded lore is incorporated into canon, like Boba Fett surviving and Darth Revan. Just some I could think of off the top of my head. I'll also touch on this one as well. Where was it? Anonymous Dude said, Unparalleled Wade says, one thing he loves about Disney Star Wars is their ruthless take on Darth Vader. I agree. Like, to me, I always wondered why everyone thought Darth Vader. I mean, he is badass because he looks cool. He has a cool voice. He's imposing, but like he never did anything to really scare me. And then it's like with Rogue One, I was like, damn, that guy's scary. And then when we got to Obi-Wan, I was like, holy fuck, dude, that guy is terrifying. Oh my God. It was awesome. See, that's the thing is like, you know, they are very PG, but then you get something like Darth Vader and they're like not afraid to like be like, this guy's a bad motherfucker, and like he's not someone you're gonna want to run into in a fucking dark alley.
Darth Vader is definitely like an NC-17 guy living in a PG world. It's like dude, he doesn't give a shit.
Yep.
And like I think that final scene in the last episode of Obi-Wan, dude, I think that like fight between them,
God, that
really just, dude, solidified to me like how cool that, like, obviously it's not like you need to be sold on how cool that character is as, you know, as a whole, but it's like, dude, that scene, that fight scene right there, just like the little nuances with them like cracking the helmet, and like amazing. The voice modulation back and forth between one to the other, dude, that was brilliant.
Yeah, it was amazing. Matthew Toy said, especially with other shows in other streaming services, Disney needs to step it up. Yeah, I agree.
I could see that, yeah.
Anonymous Dude says, I really love Miss Marvel, the character. Yeah, I was never a big Kamala fan. Like, I was reading comics at the time when she was introduced, and she just never stood out to me. Again, though, like, when I was reading comics, I was pretty exclusive to X-Men and Spider-Man, and at the time, X-Men basically lived in a world of their own. Like, there was no crossover, so... Marcus
cool
said, yeah, I mean, like I said, the story I enjoyed, so I just didn't expect to enjoy it. So Marcus E said, I really liked Miss Marvel. Same with Moon Knight and WandaVision. They may be my top 3. Hawkeye might be number 4. I just keep forgetting about that show. With Moon Knight, so like I did like Moon Knight. Like I think Oscar Isaac really saved it to me because I thought he, as an actor, was just like, was super impressive in Moon Knight. But my biggest issue with Moon Knight was they benched their most valuable player, which is the MCU. Like, you know, there's no mention of the MCU. There's no mention of the blip. There's nothing to tie it into the greater universe. And to me, not utilizing that is that show's biggest weakness, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people are like, I want more standalone, but I'm just like, you have this world. It's so rich. And like, you don't even need to do anything crazy. You just to reference it and know that it's there. Like it seemed crazy to me that none of that happened. So
like even you know, my thing is like to me it's all about the tie-in. It's all about knowing that it is part of like one bigger, you know, universe. You look at even Hawkeye, like the Vincent D'Onofrio, like him being utilized from the Netflix shows, like that still to me it's like enough where it's like you go with, you know, Charlie Cox in Spider-Man, Vincent D'Onofrio in Hawkeye, you're like, all right, then that's like their way of pulling these already like
established
almost
characters.
Like tertiary characters, even though it's like they have their own like properties, but they're not really like considered in like the bigger umbrella of the MCU. Yeah, it's like you know, it's like canon adjacent. It's like all right. But to bring that stuff into the forefront, I feel like with the amount of characters that he interferes with or like runs into, like they could have introduced so many people into that and it would have tied in well.
Yeah, I agree. And like I said, it doesn't even have to be a character just referencing the blip or Thanos or whatever, right? Where was these powers when Thanos was, something to that nature. I mean, that seems pretty forced, but
In my heart, I just hope that they do a Midnight Suns. That's what I just want to see an on-screen Midnight Suns.
I think it's bound to
I feel like it's coming, dude. It's coming. Same with I think obviously Thunderbolts is coming, and I think Midnight Suns is coming. There's no way it's not.
I think Midnight Suns is for sure going to happen. I'm pretty sure.
I think.
Go ahead.
I think with MCU stuff, when it comes down to MCU stuff, I feel like Eternals for me is my Solo. Like that is like.
I'd agree with
you
that.
watch that, to me, the only real redeeming quality of that movie is the Blade cameo at the very end. And it's not even an on-screen cameo. It's not even a cameo.
Yeah.
It's like, God damn it.
I mean, again, and I've said this a bunch of times already, and I always say it. It's like, it's not all 10 out of 10s, And Eternals is that. Yeah. It's like, did I like Eternals? Yeah, it was fine. Like, I mean, I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. Like, it's definitely lower tier in terms of ranking in the MCU for me, but it's still fine. Like, would I watch it again? Yeah, I might like breeze through it, but I don't know.
To me, I think Eternals, Captain Marvel, and Thor 2 are like 3 of my least favorite in the entire MCU.
I'd agree with that. Yeah, I'd agree.
Because like Captain Marvel to me, like I'm like,
I love the nostalgia of Captain Marvel, but that was about all I liked. I'm just not really a Brie Larson fan. I'm not. Brie Larson bugs the fuck out of me, so I
liked her in Scott Pilgrim. Shout out to the fair. Canadians.
Yep. Whoop whoop.
But other than that, I'm like, I don't really care for her all that much. But like watching that movie, to me, like I know this might sound like goofy, but watching that movie, I'm like, yeah, I've already seen this before. I watched Green Lantern. Like it to me, it seems it's like almost super adjacent to the fucking like Green Lantern story.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would actually agree with that. I think my biggest issue with Captain Marvel was like, it was the first time where I felt like I heard that story in the MCU. Like it was the first time where I was like, this is just an MCU origin story. Like this is Iron Man's story. It's Captain America's story. It like maybe not perfectly mirrored, but like it's basically the same with Thor. Like it's like that was the point. That was the first time ever where I was like on it with the MCU, and I was like, I need more than this. Like I need more than just the same. It
also just bothered me to have them introduce a character that they were immediately just like, oh no, she's like stronger than everybody.
She's the best.
She's just it's like she's just been bullshitting for the last 20 years. You're like, all right, man, well we'll just go fuck ourselves.
Matthew Toy says, especially with the MCU stuff, you don't even have to bring in someone like Tom Holland. Just have Spidey swinging in the back. It could be completely CGI. Yeah, absolutely. Anonymous Dude says, canon adjacent. That's a great turn. I'm sorry, I must use that. Marcus E says, man, imagine if Khonshu or Amit went after Thanos. I'm kind of tired of the excuses from newer characters, like the Eternals, as to why they weren't around. It wasn't our conflict to interfere, LOL.
Yeah.
The thing though, I feel like here's my take on that is like, I'll leave this up because it's relevant to what I'm about to say. My take on that is like, I feel like it would get super exhausting if they have to explain where everybody was when Thanos kind of came around. Like, I mean, the way I kind of look at it is like the battle with Thanos that was happening is who was involved, and then everybody else who was in this world, maybe they were just fighting other battles. Like, it's not like, if Thanos brought his army, who's to say that he didn't bring it everywhere? And it's just all of these alien creatures just everywhere in the world. So you've got your Avengers, the main team, fighting the main battle, but maybe the Eternals were somewhere else fighting. Maybe Captain Marvel was somewhere else fighting or whatever. You know what I mean? But it's just like, I just don't want to have to, like, I would hate for them to have to write a character in and change a bunch of shit just so that way they could explain where they were when Thanos came around. Like, I feel like that's dangerous territory, because then it's just, you get to a point where it's like everybody has to have a reason why they weren't around before. So it's like now all of a sudden all these characters have been here since the beginning, and it's just like we just need to find these stories to explain why they weren't present during Infinity War and Endgame. And I don't know, it seems exhausting to me. Like, I wish it seems like we're getting to that point now where, like, you know, even when you look at the last Doctor Strange movie, they had the big alien octopus monster at the beginning tearing the city apart, and all these people were bystanders, were just sitting by watching. Like, in real life, those people would all be shitting on the floor in terror. But in this universe, it's just all so every day now that they're like, oh, hey, there's Doctor Strange. Cool. Let's go back to the bar and, like, we'll get fucked up. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, it's I don't know. Like, I try not to look at it from that angle, because it's like, if we spend all this time trying to figure out where these characters were when bigger shit went down, like, you literally start them in a shoebox, and it's like, it's so hard to move those characters forward when you're stuck in a story that you just have to explain. You know what I mean?
I do like the idea that, you know, the MCU really kind of, when it came down to it, this go around, because I think it was so recent with the Amazing Spider-Man movies, they didn't really give us like an origin movie all over again. It felt like they were basically picking up, and to me, like, that's why I like those movies so much, and why I liked Homecoming so much, is because it was the first time Marvel actually gave us a movie where it was done without them insulting the intelligence of the greater audience. Totally. Instead of going, here's a character we know that you have no idea who the fuck they are. You've never heard of this before. You don't know what you're watching. You're just coming in blindly. Here you are. We're going to spend an hour explaining to you what the fuck happened and how it got this way. They immediately kind of walk you in, and they give you 5 minutes, a clip from Civil War, and then the rest of the movie. And you're like, all right, cool. Fuck it. That's all I needed. Thank you. Appreciate
I agree.
it. We've heard the story. I get it.
Yeah. I
And
agree. I feel like that was smart. And I feel like
moment.
I feel like they're going to do that with Fantastic Four too. It's like, we already know. And, like, I'm sure they'll allude to it, but I feel like, it's not necessary to see it all again. So
that's like another thing too, is they've been doing a lot of stuff lately where they're dropping hints. Like, they're saying that, you know, the building that was being sold,
was the Baxter building.
It's the Baxter building, and now, like, it's going to become that, and, you know, all these other things are, like, supposedly leading up to a bigger picture. And, like, I've seen a lot of stuff lately that's saying, like, speculation is that coming up after everything, like, that Doctor Doom might end up getting introduced as the next, like, big bad.
Well, they're saying now that D23, which is that Disney Con in September, I think, they're going to announce the cast of Fantastic Four. So it sounds like we're not going to have to wait too much longer to find out who's going to be playing the first family, right? So Anonymous Dude says, you guys are very thoughtful. I feel like you could go for 5 hours and not skip a beat. Marcus, you said, that's true. If that's the case, it would have been cool to see the MCU Defenders kicking alien ass in NY. I only brought it up because we know the X-Men and Fantastic Four are coming. I feel like they're going to use the multiverse. I feel like with everything building up to Secret Wars. Yeah, Secret Wars. Yeah. I feel like they're going to do what they did in the comics for Secret Wars in 2016 or 15 or whatever it was, where they basically, like, collapsed all the universes onto one. I also think that's going to be the time where we're going to get a new Black Panther. Like, they'll recast T'Challa because it'll be a T'Challa from another alternate universe. That might be where we see a new Tony Stark, a new recasted Tony Stark. I'm not saying that will happen. I'm just saying that, like, that would be the opportunity for them to then bring in new people, because it's been established that just because you're one person in one universe doesn't mean that you're that person in every universe. So I feel like that would be a great way for them to soft reboot if they wanted to, without having to really give explanation for a lot of stuff. So I feel like X-Men, will be brought in through that like the worlds colliding or whatever, right? So
I think that would be a good way to kind of converge the timelines of everything.
Yes,
that's
I do
going
too.
on.
I do too. So, and see, to me, like, I can get behind that. It makes sense. That being said, I do hope that we don't spend too much time in the multiverse, because as fun as it can be, one of the things I do struggle with is, like, I hate having something like that where they can just be like, well, how did that happen? They're like, oh, well, the multiverse. That's like, you can explain anything
Yeah,
with the
it's very
multiverse.
throwaway. Yeah, it just
Yeah,
seems
and I
like they're
don't
like,
love
oh, well,
that.
we just did what we wanted. Why? Because there's more than one universe.
Yeah, exactly. Marcus, he said, I heard a rumor that Penn Badgley will be Mr. Fantastic of the main MCU. I heard that as well, but I'm not familiar with who that is. So I'm really bad with actor names, particularly newer actors and stuff. So
I'd look it up, but I don't.
Anonymous dude says, Marcus, hopefully, like we touched on in Wade's stream, hopefully one day the MCU can totally reboot, make it have smooth storylines and more comic accurate. I do think that will happen eventually. So, but I still think MCU gets an A to this point. I agree. I think anybody who, I think it's super easy to shit on Disney for missteps, but I think people need to realize that they have a cohesive story that runs through, 15 years almost of film and television now. And I think that if you look through history, no one has ever been able to do that. And I think that on its own is a feat to be, like, pretty impressed by. So
yeah, I mean, if you look at the catalog as a whole, there's way more hits than misses, for sure.
I would agree. Yeah, I definitely agree. So, and they're evenly spread out too. It's not like they found their way halfway through and then they just started kicking ass. Like, were there some duds at the beginning? Yes, but, like, I considered Avengers 1 to be, like, pretty fucking amazing. I've considered Captain America Winter Soldier to still to this day be one of the best entries into the MCU.
So good.
It's so good. It's so fucking good. So
there's so many good moments in that, though, too.
In Winter Soldier or just
Winter
in
Soldier,
the MCU?
100%.
Yeah, man. Winter Soldier is a great
Honestly,
movie.
I think the only, like, real low points in phase 1 of the MCU, it's what? Well,
like, even Thor
Hulk is, like, the weaker one.
Yeah, I don't mind Incredible Hulk. Again, like, you can tell they don't really know where they're going at that point. So
yeah, it's so early on that you can't, like, it's hard to tell that they're, like, trying to do the world building element of that yet.
Yes, exactly. You can tell that that's where they want to go, but they don't quite have a grasp on what the plan is. So, but that's okay.
But I love the character. I'll always love the character
of Hulk.
Yeah,
I like Hulk too. I wish he would. Again, I think we're gonna get to see. I know a lot of people's complaints about Hulk is that he's kind of a pussy in the MCU, and I get it. But also, I think that we are going to see a crazy Hulk somewhere down the line, and I'm excited for when that happens. So
it's only a matter of time before we get Red Hulk. That's all I want.
I wouldn't be surprised, man. I honestly would not be surprised. Let me look at. We've completely dodged all of these questions, really, but that's okay because we're having good conversation and we're getting engaging chat, so that's good too. So, outside of, like, Marvel and comic book movies and stuff, like, do you have any, like, comedy movies that are, like, favorites of yours, or do you have any?
Ooh,
like, what are some of your favorite comedies?
Kevin Smith movies. Kevin Smith is my hero. That dude is, like, legitimately, like, one of my biggest heroes.
Are you excited for Clerks 3?
Hell yeah. So check this out. So my birthday is September 12th, right? So I have I actually got my girlfriend got meet and greet tickets for me and her to go see him. So we're doing the live screening of Clerks 3, and then we get meet and greet with him, like, after
Q&A
the movie
and stuff.
Yeah.
Sick.
So I
That's
get
awesome.
I get since we both got meet and greet, her and I each get a signed copy of the script for Clerks 3.
Nice.
I get like a VIP pass, whatever, like all this other shit. I get, like, a meet and greet and photo with him and everything like that. And whatever else. Yeah, I get to watch the movie and then do all that shit. That's the day before my birthday. So like
Oh man, that's
that
awesome.
that morning I have like a brunch show that I'm doing, so I get to do comedy, then leave that, and then go see Kevin Smith, who's
Oh,
like a
that's
huge
dope.
influence on why I do comedy in the first place. And then the next day is my birthday, so I'm like, dude, that's such a fucking like
That's a solid
huge like.
lineup.
So when the reboot came out, so the venue that I'm gonna go see it at, my buddy is head of security there, and we went and saw the reboot. Did not buy the meet and greet tickets because I was like, dude, I don't want to spend, like, I love Kevin Smith, but I just didn't have the money. Like, I couldn't afford to spend like $150 for a meet and greet.
Yeah.
My buddy was head of security, got Kevin Smith to record a video, and then he sent it to me.
That's sick.
And it's literally Kevin Smith. He clears his throat and he goes, fuck you, Nick Deez. Because that's what I told him. I was like, I don't know. He's like, what do you want him to say? I'm like, I don't know, just say fuck you. I was like, I think that'd be really funny. So like I have a video of Kevin Smith just saying fuck amazing. You to me. And my buddy texted me, he's like, dude, are you ready for this? And I'm like, yeah, man, fucking what's up? He's like, all right, here you go. And he sent me the video, dude. As a grown man, at like 30 years old, dude, I cried. I was so ecstatic to get this video that I legitimately I actually cried.
That's awesome.
I was so pumped. Yeah, but
what's your favorite Kevin Smith movie?
Ooh. Fuck.
I'm a huge Kevin Smith fan as well, so I
all right. What's your favorite?
I think if I had to just pick one, I would probably pick Mallrats. I think Mallrats is still my favorite. I really liked Clerks 2 because I liked that he tried something different. I also think the character of Elias is just like the funniest fucking character
Such
ever.
A fucking funny character. Oh my god, dude.
But I mean, honestly, they all have their things. Like, I really like Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, the first one. Like,
yeah,
I think it's really fucking funny. And again, I love his use of all of his actor friends in the cameos and stuff like that. Like, I love Chris Rock's character where he's like, you put boogers in my coffee. There's boogers in it.
Oh, dude.
Drink the booger. Taste the booger flavor.
Dude. I know it's in there. Give me a white.
I know it's in there.
Blonde hair, white girl. Enjoy that shit. Dude. It's so good. It's so good. It's so good.
Chasing Amy is fucking great too.
But see, so that's the thing. It's like it's so hard for me to give like a favorite Kevin Smith movie.
I know. They're also
because it really like each one. It's like each movie has its own like emotional feel to it too. That's like the crazy part is like, honestly, if it comes down to it, I think like Dogma, Chasing Amy,
Dogma's great too.
Mallrats, and Clerks 2 are like really like Clerks 2 for sure. Like, but when it comes down to it, you know, I remember I recorded Clerks and Mallrats on VHS. Because they played them on TV one day. So I had like the censored version of the movies on fucking a VHS tape when I was like 11 years old. And I would just watch it over and over and over again. Then as I got older, I remember Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back came out. But I remember like renting Dogma. I remember like Chasing Amy. Dude, like I love all those movies so much. Like, so you were asking about like things that I collect. I actually, you know, obviously you can see it. I got a bunch behind me, but like the pops and stuff like that. I have a Silent Bob and I have Iron Bob.
Oh, nice.
I have both of those pops. So
I have a Jay and Silent Bob from Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. The Funko Pops. I have those.
So I have Silent Bob from the LA Comic-Con one. I have that exclusive. Then I have the Iron Bob. It's like another exclusive. But then I have I'm looking, oh, there it is. I have the Blunt Man and Chronic like 2-pack.
Nice.
Yeah, I got to meet Jay. He did like the Virginia Beach Funny Bone, so I got to like meet him and take a picture with him a couple years ago.
Oh, nice.
Like
That's
before
awesome.
COVID and everything. Yeah, I mean, it's like Kevin Smith is like really high up there when it comes to comedy. I would say like the three biggest like movie influences for comedy: Kevin Smith, Adam Sandler, and Mel Brooks are like my top three.
Man,
like,
we are literally two peas in a pod,
dude,
man.
biggest influences, man, when it comes to like comedy movies.
Yeah.
Right up there, like Spaceballs,
Oh
fucking
God, Spaceballs,
dude,
so fucking good.
Spaceballs,
Young
Young Frankenstein.
Yep.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Yep.
History of the World is a great one.
Yep.
Dracula Dead and Loving It. What else? Robin Hood Men in Tights, which
Oh
young
my
Dave
God,
Chappelle.
so fucking funny, man.
Dude,
I haven't watched Men in
good
Tights
fucking
in
movie.
forever. It's been a minute,
Dude,
but
I went through and just started buying a bunch of movies on my Prime account.
Yep.
So that like in the
So you
event
always
that
have
a
them?
fucking in the event that a nuclear fallout happens, I have all those movies saved on my Prime account. But I have like a bunch of bookcases like in this room with me that have all my DVD collection
DVDs?
on there.
Same
it's
here,
like,
man.
yeah, dude.
When
Yeah.
I moved to
I'll
Vancouver,
never get rid of that shit.
Space became an issue because like here in Vancouver, it's like space is like such a commodity. So I moved here. I brought my whole DVD collection, which was like 800 DVDs, and like I ended up having to get rid of all the cases, so they all just live in like two giant CD books, like this thick.
Jesus.
And I still have them to this day. So it's like I still have all my original DVDs. I don't have the cases, but I have all the originals, all my Kevin Smith, not all the Mel Brooks stuff, but quite a bit of it.
Dude.
Yeah, man, I haven't even thought about Men in Tights in forever. Fuck, that's a funny movie. And Adam Sandler, I just got back from Amsterdam, and on the flight there, they had Happy Gilmore, they had Billy Madison, and they had what was the last? Wedding Singer. So I watched all three of them. Yeah, such a good one. So
that was like the first movie where I was like, yeah, man, I'm fucking in love with Drew Barrymore. Then when they did 50 First Dates, I'm like, all right, yep, that's another one.
It's a good one too.
Right, yeah.
I like Big Daddy. I like Mr. Deeds. Like
that's
honestly,
such a good one. Such a good
those
one.
Those older Adam Sandler movies are fucking great. Anonymous dude said Mel Brooks did Princess Bride. I don't think that was Mel Brooks.
No, he didn't. No, he didn't do Princess Bride. Shit, it's right on the tip of my tongue. I'm trying to think of the director's name that did that one.
Princess Bride? Rob Reiner.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Those are great choices. Fuck, Spaceballs. So fucking funny.
Dude, so good.
Find anything? Man, we ain't found shit.
Dude. That whole scene is so beautiful. It's so well done. Where they're like combing the desert. He's like, it cuts to them and then it cuts back to Rick Moranis and the other guy. And he's like, don't you think you were being a little too literally here? It's like, he said comb the desert, man. We're combing it. Dude, that's so funny. And then it's like, you got the white guys with the fucking regular combs. And then it's the black guy with the Black Power Afro pick, dude. It's so good. It's so good.
It is. It's amazing. It's seriously amazing. It's fucking great.
Also, if you watch, so Men in Tights, you know the Men in Tights song that they're singing. Yep. If you watch History of the World, the Men in Tights song and the Jews in Space song, it's the same song with different lyrics, like same music.
Oh, really? I didn't notice that.
Yeah.
I'll have to pay attention.
If you listen, it's the exact same song. Just
my father-in-law is a huge Mel Brooks fan too, so we've enjoyed quite a few together. Definitely not somebody like if you were making those movies today, that probably wouldn't fly. But for the time,
not at all. But at the same time, it's like, can you yell at him for most of that? You're like, well, he's Jewish. They've had it pretty tough. You're like, all right, well, that's fine. I don't think you're allowed to say that. He's like, no, I'm Jewish. You're like, oh, well, in that case, Mr. Brooks, just have at it. Like,
our bad.
Sure, there you go. Yeah, my bad, Phil. I'm sorry. I know it's been tough for your people. That whole like wandering through the desert thing. Yeah, man, it's all good. Like, we're gonna leave other things out of this completely, but yeah, that whole God's chosen people thing. You're like, yeah, our bad on that.
Oh, man. An honest dude says, I heard George Lucas said Mel Brooks could make Spaceballs, but he could not make toys. Man, that would be a cool property to see action figures of. I don't know if I would go super deep on it, but I would definitely.
That's what you should do. That's what you should do. You should make a set of Spaceballs toys.
That would be cool, man. I'd love to have like. I would love to have like. Well,
Dark
I mean,
Helmet.
Dark Helmet would be the best, but
Dude,
like, it'd
Lone
be cool to
Star
have
and
like
Dark Helmet.
and Barf too. I loved.
Oh man,
Yeah, it's so good. And
I'm
the
a
princess
Mog,
and her
half
bride.
man,
They're in her
half
droid
dog.
too.
I'm my own best friend.
It's funny. She doesn't look Jewish.
Dude, oh my god.
Oh yeah, so good. So fucking good.
The part where he just looks at her, he goes, "You're ugly when you're angry."
Oh,
Fuck,
shit.
dude, there's so many good lines, and his writing style's so good. There's so many fucking like just brilliant lines in that whole movie.
There's some
Like,
bangers, that's for sure.
Where they ask Barf his name, and he goes Barf, and they're like, "Not in here, Mister. This is a Mercedes." It's like, dude, what the fuck, bro? Or like, where it's like Pizza the Hut.
Pizza the Hut.
Or pizza's gonna send out for you. And then he just starts eating him.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, you're so
delicious."
Yeah, dude. It's so fucking stupid.
Oh man, so fucking good. I just
God,
love
dude.
it. I wish
So
I was
good.
that good. That
If I could write anything that well, like from a comedy standpoint, dude, I'd be rich.
Dude.
Jesus.
Well, there's a reason those guys are the legends they are, right? So
Dude, it's brilliant.
yeah, man.
Oh yeah, and then the producers. Mel Brooks did the producers. It's like
Yes,
one of
he
his
did.
first.
Yes, he did.
One of his first. High Anxiety is another one. The producers. Silent Movie. There's a bunch of them.
Yeah, man. He's got quite a library. So, but I guess he did it for quite a long time too, right? So
yeah,
makes sense.
He also one of the funniest like Mel Brooks things ever. He has a small cameo in the Little Rascals movie.
Oh,
There's
really?
a part
Like
in that
the
movie
redo from the 90s or
from the 90s with Whoopi Goldberg has a cameo in it too.
Yep,
Reba McEntire's in there. So there's a part in that movie where the kids walk into the bank and he realizes that they're children and they're wearing like fake beards, and he pulls the beards down and he lets go and it snaps back in their faces. And he looks at the kids and he goes, "If you were my kids, I'd punish you." And then the kids look at Mel Brooks and the one kid goes, "If we were your kids, we'd punish ourselves."
I remember.
Dude, it's the funniest line in the whole movie. But it's every time I think of it, it's just, dude, it's so good.
I forgot about that movie.
If we were your kids, we'd punish ourselves.
That's so good.
Dude.
There you go. Anonymous dude says, write something, Nick. I'm sure it'll have merit.
Dude, I wish. Me and a bunch of buddies are like trying to get together and like start shooting some sketches and stuff. The goal is like hopefully to put together like a web series or some shit and see what happens.
That'd be great. I mean,
I just don't know how to write in that like format.
Fair enough. Yeah. I know it's always funny when you like, you know, even like I use this YouTube channel as an example of it, right? It's like I watch so much of these like toy streams and all these content creators, and then I went to go do it and I'm just like, holy fuck, man, this is like a lot of work and way harder than it looks and way more time consuming than it seems like it would be. And yeah, it can be exhausting. So so we're gonna wrap things up here. I usually try to keep these around 2 hours. But before we go, do you want to just tell everybody where they can find you one more time? I'm gonna throw your Instagram back up here.
Yeah, it's at Nick Deez Comedy on Instagram and everything else. YouTube, Facebook, all that fun stuff. You could find like my like regular Facebook is Nick Deez. I post all my like content on there as well. But yeah, I'll have my album will be out hopefully tentatively September 12th, which is my birthday.
That's awesome.
And then if not, it'll come out a little bit after that. But yeah, that's the goal.
I'll make sure that I post that on my I'll make sure I post that on my page when you start promoting it and pushing it out.
Look. So as far as like a couple of my favorite figures, I got the like the Spider-Man the Spider-Man series Morbius, and then I got my my Blade one from I think that was like the Swamp Thing set.
Yeah, it was Man Thing. Yeah, yeah. How did you
No,
like?
that's right.
Did you
My bad.
like? Did you like the Morbius movie, or what was your thoughts on that?
It's got parts in it that I thought were pretty cool.
Yeah,
Overall, that's like the thing is like people hated on the Venom movies, but it's like there's stuff in I thought the first one was really good. I liked the first one a lot. Um, the second one I felt was pretty short. I
yeah,
felt
I
like
do
it
too.
went by super fast, and it wasn't gory enough for me to be a movie centralized around the Carnage character. I felt like there was way more that they could have done with that.
Yeah, I
And
agree with that
Morbius
for
to
sure.
me was, again, that's a similar character. It's like starts out in that same world as Venom does, where it's like that weird like villain anti-hero, like you don't know where he walks on most of it, but it's
Yeah,
like I don't know, there's parts in there that I thought were really cool. There's parts that like
we're pretty
were
weak.
kind of, yeah, there's like some stuff in there that's like pretty like whatever, just seems like it, well, I don't know, with the amount of stuff that they pushed back on that movie, I feel like they could have given something that was like, you know, top tier, and it would have done something to really establish something. But again, so we talk about before like the tie-in stuff with it. The big thing for me in Morbius that makes it worthwhile is the Michael Keaton cameo.
Right.
So it's like, you got all that. It's like stuff that's acknowledged within that realm, within that world.
Well,
It's
it's funny because when I don't know if you're so like, I mean, I've definitely never been one to shy away from my opinion on the Sony Spider-Man stuff. I'm not a fan of any of it. Like Venom 1 was like fine, I guess. But like to me it all still really played out like pre-MCU, like corny superhero-y kind of shit. And to be honest with you, like, like I get what they're trying to do with Venom. I get that they're trying to make him playful and stuff, but it's just like I've never really considered Venom like a Deadpool-esque character, and
yeah,
it just like it doesn't really translate for me. I don't love it. In fairness, the actors that they're casting for a lot of their movies are also actors that I just can't stand. Like I'm not a Tom Hardy fan. I fucking despise Michael Morbius guy. I don't even remember his name. Jared Leto. I
Jared Leto.
fucking
He has a cult.
he what?
He has a cult.
Really?
He's got like, yeah. You look it up. That's like a thing. I'm trying to like. I need to figure it out. But I have like a premise that I'm trying to write about the fact that Jared Leto has a cult, and like it's like a whole island, and these people like pay all this money to go to the island and shit like that. But apparently, like the whole time you're there, all they do is play 30 Seconds to Mars music. So it's like just Jared Leto just plays his own band's music the entire
That's
time, and
great.
he's like brainwashing people. And it's like, it's a guy that just looks like Jesus. And I'm like, dude, it's so crazy to me. But yeah, that's like a buddy of mine told me that one time in conversation. I was like,
That's
I have to
fucking
look this
funny.
up. So I like, even right now, like on my phone, I have an open tab in my browser about the Jared Leto cult. It
The
just says
cult.
Jared Leto cult. And yeah, so one day I will figure out how to write a joke about it. But yeah, it's just
Marcus
insane.
Marcus Yee says Jared Leto is a concerning dude.
100%.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Yeah, so I mean, for me, it's just like I'm not a Morbius. The character doesn't really do a lot for me either. And like I laughed because when Sony released Morbius in the theaters for the second time, because everyone was making fun of them using the memes and they thought that it was a sign that people wanted to see it again. But when they actually re-released it in the theaters the second time, they actually took out that after credit stinger with Vulture, because I think Marvel like studios started to distance themselves from it because they're like, this is fucking
Oh,
terrible. And
shit.
yeah, so I think they actually on the second release they actually took that out of the movie. So because they
Oh,
didn't want
shit.
people to get
Wow.
confused. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
You know what's crazy? I don't know if you've ever seen it, but you can find it online. There is a deleted scene from the original Blade movie. At the end of the movie, it's like a thing where they're like talking about whatever, and it cuts to like a building across the way, and you see this like building, and on top of the building is Morbius.
Oh,
So it's like
really?
him, and it's like how he looked in the Spider-Man cartoon. So it's like
Oh,
him. It's
cool.
like the long
Trench
leather
coat?
jacket. Yeah, it's like the long leather trench coat and the hair and shit, like white
That's
face,
dope.
and he's just standing like looking like real sketchy on like the edge of the building, and that
That's
was like
awesome.
supposed to be the alternate ending. That was like gonna be the ending to the movie, and they didn't end up going that route um, for whatever reason. That's like how Batman Forever was supposed to have Man Bat in the movie,
That's
but they
right.
cut
I
it
did
out.
hear that. I went down I actually recently rewatched Batman '89, and
So
and
Batman Forever, or Batman and Robin is like to this day one of my favorite Batman movies of all
is
time.
is it?
Dude,
Like
yeah, fuck yeah, dude,
I read
100%.
I watched '89. I watched the first one, and then I started reading. I remembered really liking Batman Returns, and then like I tried to watch it, and I struggled to get through it. And then I started reading about like what Batman Returns was like supposed to be and like their plans for a lot of it. And man, it's so fucking interesting. It would have been so interesting to see how that all would have played out. And even like in Batman '89, like Robin was apparently supposed to be in it initially, and then they cut him out, and
Yep.
then like it's pretty cool. Like that kind of stuff. I always find that really interesting. Like what could have been, you know?
Well, so like before Tim Burton pulled out of Batman Forever, they had it set where Robin was going to be in that one, and Robin was going to be played by Damon Wayans.
I do remember reading that.
Or
Yeah, maybe
not
that's where I'm getting mixed up. Maybe it
not Damon.
wasn't
It was Marlon. It was Marlon
Marlon Wayans.
Wayans.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. So like, there's like a whole thing where like he was supposed to be in that, which is like really funny to me.
Totally. Especially back then, like it didn't seem like they took those kind of changes. Well, I guess that's not true because Harvey Dent in Batman '89 is Billy D. Williams. So I guess
That is true.
yeah,
But then they made him in Batman Forever. They made him Tommy Lee
Tommy
Jones,
Lee
which is
Jones.
also like another guy with three names. So it's like, all right, I guess it counts.
keeping with the theme of the triple name,
Right. There's like a comic series that follows up from that.
Yes,
I
I
saw
heard
not
about
too
that, but
long
I heard
ago,
it was.
yeah.
I heard it kind of fell flat though. I don't know. I didn't read it, so I can't. I don't want to speak to it. But I kind of read a couple people talking about it in like a forum maybe or something, and I heard mixed feelings. It seemed like there was.
Oh, damn, that's a bummer.
Yeah, because it was supposed to continue basically after Batman Returns, I think, right?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's where it was supposed to pick up.
Yeah. That's cool, man. I love that kind of shit. Anything that adds to the lore, like I said a couple times, that's just like I can appreciate extended stories, so I'm there for it. I'm there. Nick, thank you very much for hanging out with me tonight and chatting.
Dude,
It
of
was
course.
really
Thank
fun.
you,
It
buddy.
was nice to get to like finally do this. I know we usually, just DM, but yeah, it's cool to actually chat with you on camera here. So thank you very much for stopping by. And again,
Dude,
for
of course.
anybody
Thank you, buddy.
who is watching live or watching on the replay, please make sure you check out Nick on Instagram, on YouTube. He has a comedy special coming out sometime in September. We're going to say September 12th right now, but I will post it in my Instagram once it finally gets released. So, but go follow him, go show him some love, and yeah, thanks, man. Thank you very much. This was fucking sick. This was awesome.
Dude, thank you, man. I had a great time.
Keep doing the good work, and yeah, man, I'm excited to see what the future holds for you.
Thank you, buddy. Really appreciate it, man. Thank you again.
And thank you guys in the chat. Anonymous dude, you're always in here. I really appreciate it. Marcus, same to you, man. Matchu, thanks for jumping in. Everybody, man, it's really awesome. NYC Figure Fanatic, I'll be hitting you up for that diesel pretty quick here. So, all right, guys. So make sure you hit that like again. Subscribe to both Nick and myself. And yeah, hope you guys all have a great night. Nick, take it easy, my friend.
Later, buddy.
See ya.